Hey Mike, this is Adrian Gomez. Sorry for the delay. So I'm going to work through these quick weaknesses really quick, just to see off of his back hip. His back hip's at 107 degrees, which is a good squat. His knees staying. You can see his back leg. His knees staying in front, and it's turning inside pretty early. The back foot's turning over pretty well as well. So, pretty happy with his back leg. He could, the direction of his hips, you can see how his hips turning this way. It could sit a little bit better back where his hips are sitting deeper into that and loading. His upper body, you can see how his upper body doesn't stack on top of that, and that's what we need the most. We need his upper body to stay on the back of it. So upper body needs to maintain itself back for a longer period of time, because it's not going to be able to stabilize his back leg. So he's getting out too early with his legs, and then his upper body's not ready to drive. So that's what we call stacking. So he's got to improve on his upper body stacking. His lower body's not bad, but his upper body's got to be better connected. So moving on to the next weakness, and I know he slips here in this video, but I'm gonna measure it from when he starts to plant. So right now it's about 114 degrees, and that kind of flexibility with his legs at plant foot is quite good. Anything over 110 is pretty advanced and pretty good. So flexibility there is good. Let's look at when he plants his front foot, where he's at. Let's see here. Trying to get in here. About 134 degrees, and so obviously he slips here, but what we want to have happen, 134 degrees isn't bad, but before he throws a ball, his knee should come back, and we're going to look at this right now. You can see his knee going forward, and you're about to release the ball. He's already released the ball. Now the knee comes back. And at plant foot, he's 134 degrees. I'd like to be in the 140s with his front knee retracting into this position. That's going to help him close his hips. That's going to help him drive his chest. All of these things are kind of influenced by one another. He's also crossing his legs a little bit by about 4 or 5 inches. So as he comes back off the back foot, off of his toe, he's kind of the center of this, probably around 5-6 inches, crossing himself up a little bit. And if we shifted that a little bit here, his hips would rotate better. His knee position, his front knee, and you can see, let's see if there's any variance in his knee. As he drives, the knee comes back. There's not a huge variance, and I think it would be just a tad bit better if we could get him to the left, his front foot to the left a little bit, and leave him a little bit more straight. He's going to have more hip drive with his back hip. As you can see how it goes around. Let's look at it here. This angle's probably better. He kind of stops with his hips and its arm. So his hips are starting well. You're squatting really well, but then this drive into that front leg, the hips kind of disappear, and there's no hip rotation. So 80% of the throwing motion is rotational, and 20% is directional. And so he doesn't have that directional force, that hip rotation. So you're missing a little bit from his back hip. So I would say that's where the biggest part of your problem, and I'll explain it. So let's look at his back hip. instead of rotating in and around that front leg, his front foot pops up and he rotates around. I'd like his hips to rotate first and then his leg to pop up. So it's gonna be, so back leg squat, that's one thing he's got to fix, and upper body stacking issue, and his front knee angle at plant foot, internally rotated. I don't think you have an internal rotation problem. I think it's just crossing yourself up a few inches, 5-6 inches, and then also the angle at which you plant your front foot isn't retracting like it should. So let's get into the upper body stuff. So I don't see where he throws the ball out of this one, but we want to be beyond the front foot. So I can test. He kind of stays straight up and down, so I'll give you a rough estimate of where I think he is. So if I take his back hip and I take an angle off of his back hip and I bring it up into his shoulder, we're about 33 degrees. And so I like to get up to 48 to 50 degrees. So that chest extension, and like I described before, the front knee comes back and the chest goes through. So he's missing quite a few, I'd say about 15 degrees. And so that's what you're missing, the chest drive. Obviously he's slipped here, but the front knee comes back and the chest should drive through. He should continue to drive through that ball. He's letting it fly early. So what we would say to that is the chest extension needs to be improved, and that's part of the online program. And let's look at his elbow. So with regards to the positioning of the elbow to the shoulder, we want the shoulder or the elbow to be right off of both of the shoulders. And so he's about 78 degrees. As he pinches pretty well, but he spikes. He likes to spike down and come up, and that's going to be harder to keep together. You can see he has a big arm fly out. And part of that is due to, so number one, I don't think he has a huge high elbow, but it's a small high elbow. And I don't think he's driving far enough with his chest, so that really is going to make it hard for him to stay on top of the baseball instead of scooting out and getting around it. So that's going to involve power, that's going to involve movement. There's some issues there. So no high elbow, but there is an arm fly out. So his arm lays back fully right around here. It's inside and then it pops outside of it. So that's quite a big fly out. If I could reduce that maybe in half, you'd have a faster chest, you'd have a tighter rotation, you'd have staying on top of the ball. All of these good things happen when you do that. Let's look at his front glove, because front glove really throws off rotation. So you can see how his arm goes down and he's forced to come up and out because that front shoulder isn't supported the way that it should be. So the front glove also needs to be fixed. So those are the things that I want you to work on. Getting that front glove pinching and driving this way is going to increase that rotational power, rotational velocity as well. So as a recap, back leg, okay, squat, back leg squat, upper body. He's not stacking, he's kind of just going forward with his upper body, so he's got to stack better. The front leg angle is going to be huge. His front glove, we have an arm fly out, and we have ball release and chest extension. So about 5 or 6 things that he's got to fix. And if you fix those 5 or 6 things, you start working on making them better, we should get about 5 to 6 miles an hour in a year, with the program, and including all the bands, the weighted balls, everything that we do. If you can follow that 12-week program online, you are going to be good to go. And if you need anything else, we'll evaluate how he's improved as he starts on the program. So thanks for being a part of 212 Athlete.